Good evening, brothers and sisters. Let us begin now. Let us first sing Chunalok anthem. For our opening prayer, may I request Patrick?
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Please join me in prayer. Good evening to you, our most beloved and gracious Heavenly Parent, and our victorious true parents of heaven and earth and humankind. Thank you so much for allowing us to be gathered here as one family, our Heavenly Parent, despite the different places we come from. Thank you so much, Heavenly Parent. Despite the hundreds of kilometers that we are far apart, you have allowed us to be gathered here. Thank you so much, our Heavenly Parent, for the advancement of the technology that we are experiencing now. And our Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for our true parents and for the divine principle, which we will be learning this evening. Our Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for all of the blessings that you have given to all of us, the food that we have, for allowing us to have 3 meals a day, and for all of the blessings that you have given to us. Our Heavenly Parent, this I would like to ask and pray In behalf of my brothers and sisters, in true parents' name, Amen and Adieu.
Amen. Thank you very much, Kuya Patrick. Good evening once again, brothers and sisters. Cold evening. Before we begin, mas maganda picture muna tayo. Lagi kami may picture dito eh. Before we start the lecture, tsaka meron ding after. Pagdating ng iba. Picturean yung mga early birds, tapos yung mga late. Open your camera. Kuya Jinggoy. Kami. Ate Josephine. Dilim siya. Kami. Yung alright. Christine Joanne. Christine Jo. Okay, so, yan. Wait lang profile picture mo. Pang tubay to. Sige. Okay. Formal muna. Tubay to. Ayos pa niya. Okay, 3. Oh, wala si ate. Yun na. May glass pala yung kulang. Okay, so picture tayo, brothers and sisters. 3, 2, 1. Next.
May humahabol, may
May
humahabol.
humabol. May humabol. Yan po. Kaya Mark, person, antayin natin sandali. Sayang. Kaya Mark, open ang camera mo. So tayo. Open niyo ulit yung camera niyo. We're not yet finished. Mas maganda pag hanggang matapos yung natin session, naka-open yung camera so that we can monitor you guys. Okay. So, sino po na
We're checking we're checking you one by one. From time to time, I'm browsing your videos, your cameras.
Kaya Mark? Narinig ba tayo kay Mark? Okay, so anyway. It's Vision 2027. Vision 2027. Sungni. Tapos last. Art. Saranghayo. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you for your cooperation. So welcome, brothers and sisters, to our another session, day 2 of our 21 days. So I am your host for tonight. And every day magbabago yung host, depende. If they are available. Yung ibang staff ng PTA tsaka BFD. Kaya tisilin nyo, yun siya, beginning tsaka end. Pag graduation, magpapakita yun siya. All right. So proper lecture. Or before we proceed to proper lecture, may I know? Kasi our discussion or our lecture for tonight is about principle of creation. Since last time, introduction yun. Tapos, ngayon, started with the principle of creation, chapter 1 of the principle. And section 1, and 1, 2, and 3. So, I would like to ask, what do you expect, brothers and sisters, in this topic? These 3 sections. Do you have any... Oh, title na lang muna. Sino bang nag-aral dito? Alam ko nakapag-DP na kayo lahat eh. So, I will ask some of you. Section 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, okay. Let me ask someone. How about the Ate Christinette? Am I pronouncing the name?
Good evening po. Ano po yung tanong ulit
So,
po?
and what is the topic now? Section 1, 2, and 3 of the principle.
Expectation po?
Yeah, if you have any expectation from this topic
May
that we will be
expectation,
discussing.
may expectation of the topic that we need to call is deep realization po, or deep saying to what is happened next to the introduction, or deep meaning of the the lection that we tackled tonight po. That could be all. Thank you so much po.
What is the title of the section 1? The topic.
Purpose of creation.
That's section 3. Thank you very much. Who else? How about so in this 21 days, so I will be asking you guys some some sessions. I will be asking you before the proper lecture. Tanungin nyo kayo kung ano yung mga topic na i-discuss natin in that day. So please, I hope na you will also study. So it's better. So kakaiba tong 21 days na to, unlike the normal 20 days, right? You just listen, just receive. We want also to hear from you, and we want also to learn from you guys. So how about let me ask Cami Garcia, Ate Cami.
Good evening po. Hindi ko po naintindihan yung question. Medyo lag po kasi hindi ko po alam po sa signal ko or sa signal niyo po. Hindi ko po masyadong maintindihan.
Okay, my question, Cami, is what are your expectations of tonight's lecture? It's the section 1, 2, and 3. And if you know the topic of the section 1, 2, and 3, would you mind tell us? Let us know. Naglalag siguro. Alright.
Hala, hindi ko po kayo maintindihan. Lag po. Kulay red po yung signal niyo. Sorry
I think
po.
that your internet. Nasa IPLC ka? So yeah. Okay, nawala siya. Nawala si Cami. Anyway, thank you, Cami. Problema talaga sa IPLC. Last time din. Anyways, so I think it's time for us to begin. Principle of creation, one of the most important chapter in the divine principle is to understand this chapter kasi ito yung pinaka main principle and ito yung original plan ni God before the fall happened. So we have to understand what is this supposed to be the plan of God for us human beings. What is the original plan of God? What is the blueprint of God? So please let us borrow your ears there and listen carefully and be attentive. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our first lecturer. Tatlo yung magle-lecture ngayon, section 1, 2, and 3. Tatlong lecturer din. Every section, iba-ibang lecturer. So, I would like to welcome section 1 to give us the lecture of section 1, dual characteristics. Yeah. Let's welcome Ate Relina Peralta Delano. Let's give a round of applause for this.
Tinakpakan mo na yung sarili. Let me, good evening brothers and sisters, let me share my screen. Ano ba nangyari? Hindi ako mag-share ng screen. Na-share na? Wala siya kung problema. Na-share na siya, sir?
Yes, yes, te. Ano na lang po, slideshow.
Good evening. Once again, as is introduced, I am Relina Prestigio Peralta Delano. I am a member of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, or FFWPU, which is under the umbrella organization of the Heavenly Parents Holy Community. As member of the FFWPU, my husband and I have joined the 360,000 Couples Blessing in 1995, and in 2002 we started family, and that in 2005 we had our daughter, so she is now 15 years old. So by the way, my husband was chosen by God and through Peru be my eternal partner. So just like most of you, maybe most of you are candidates for the matching and then the blessing. So my husband and I also have experienced or have joined the matching and the blessing of the true parents, the Reverend and Mrs. San Myung Moon. So today I am tasked to share with you. I am tasked to share with you a principle of creation, which is part 1, chapter 1 of the divine principle. And first, I would like to share Reverend Sang Myung Moon's words. So, who among you have remember Reverend Sang Myung Moon from the introduction? Can I hear someone? So, in the introduction during day 1 last Monday, Reverend Sang Myung Moon was introduced as the bearer of the new expression of truth, and that I would like to start sharing these words with these words. I taught the word of God to true stories about my own experiences. Perhaps for this reason, many people found they were able to find clear answers to questions that they had not been able to understand until then. So this is from his autobiography, page 106. Why am I sharing this with you? Because I want to follow uh, Reverend Moon example of sharing stories about his life and uh, sharing the words of God. If I cannot find words of Reverend Moon in explaining the topics of the lecture, I will uh, explaining, be using stories about my own. So to continue, as a summary of the, to summarize the introduction, so I will be sharing with you again Reverend Sang Myung Moon, which yung introduction, para meron tayong connection. The principle of the unification church did not come from the human brain. A human brain cannot produce it. The principle must begin with God. It must be able to guide human history, not to violate the basic rule as it goes through the present world and continues through towards its final destination in the future world. Otherwise, it would not fulfill the will of God. The Unification Church provides the principle that fulfills this requirement. So that's how important the principle is. And to further uh, further summary of the introduction, the principle is vast. There is nothing in the world that cannot be solved through the application of the principle. It carries all the information in the world, just like an encyclopedia. So many of you, during my time, especially when I was in high school, I always use the encyclopedia. This time you are using Mr. Google. There is nothing that cannot be explained perfectly through this. The reason the divine principle can do this is that it elucidates the root problems of humanity with the basics of heavenly law. Therefore, it is like a formula. A formula must apply to everything. The principle applies to all things and also accommodates modern philosophy and psychology. Furthermore, it harmonizes with the laws of the physical world. So these are the words of Reverend Moon about the introduction of the divine principle in summary. So let us now proceed with the principle of creation introduction. Throughout history, people have anguished over the fundamental questions of human life and the universe without arriving at satisfying answers. And what are these questions of human? Uh, what are these the samples of these questions? Can you relate with these questions? These fundamental questions are like, who am I? Where did I came from? What is the purpose of life? What happens to the people when we die? Does God really exist? Why do human beings hate each other, fight, and start war? So when Reverend Moon asked this question in his biography, he is actually as young as 12 years old. So my heart, he said, my heart was filled with this serious problem and a serious and fundamental question as young as 12 years old. No one could easily answer them for me. So my my only option was to pray. I hope all of us can follow the example of Reverend Moon, wherein when we have a serious problem, serious question, or if we are confused, he always make a point to pray pray and ask God's um, intervention or answer to those problems. And what is this? And later on, we can know what is the connection of the divine of our topic today about praying and asking the Heavenly Father or God's intervention to answer our prayer. So to continue, the reason why people cannot have satisfying answers to questions in life and of life and the universe. Why is it so? It is because no one has understood the root principle. The root principle means the reason why we are created, or the universe and humanity is created. To approach this topic properly, it is not enough to examine resultant reality. When we say resultant reality, we mean the created world. If there is a created world, there must be a creator. So the resultant reality is something that is visible. But then it says here the fundamental question is that of causal reality, the cause of this resultant reality. So it may be, we can see the resultant reality, the created world, but even if we cannot see the creator, because there is a resultant reality, there is a created world, for sure there is a causal reality, or a cause, a creator of all that has been created. And in the religious realm, we call this God. And if you are a Christian, we call this God. This causal reality is called God. So the problems concerning human life and the universe cannot be solved without first understanding the nature of God. What does this mean? If all our problems can be solved, so the principle is giving us an answer, a solution to our problems. But before we can give solution to our problems, we need to understand the nature of God. So to continue, it is now time for my section 1, which is my task of the principle of creation. So what are the dual characteristic of God and the created universe? So what is the dual characteristic of God? The problem is, how can we know the divine nature of the invisible God? We all know that God is invisible. Any one of you, the participants, can have seen God. Has anyone seen God? Can I hear from the participant? Wala pa akong naririnig. Wala ba akong kausap? Hi. May nakakita na kay God? So, wala pang how can we know the invisible God? And this is also the question of the young Reverend Moon when he received the revelation. When Reverend Moon have received the revelation or the new expression of truth, he was 15 years old. And then one of his question is that the one and he have been as early as I was telling you, he has been asking fundamental questions as early as 12 years old, especially when he that was the time when he had witnessed that his grandfather was exhumated and was transferred to a different cemetery. That's the reason why he asked one fundamental question such as, where do people go when they die? So that was one fundamental question. So the answer given to him is that one way to fathom his deity is by observing the universe which he created. So this is what the revelation tells him on how to know the nature of the invisible God. And this revelation coincides with in the Bible, in the book of Romans, which wherein Saint Paul says that since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature had been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. So, if we are to know the revelation, when the revelation started with Reverend Moon was when he was 15 years old, so this is 1935. But when was the, no? Parang trivia, when was the Bible printed? It was 1613, 1613. So yung first publication of the Bible. So the revelation of Reverend Moon that we can see, we can know the dual character, the characteristic of God or the nature of God by observing the universe, and it's coincide with the Bible, the New Testament, which in the New Testament, which says we can also learn the invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature through observing the creation. So the nature of God manifests in the creation. So just as we can come to know the characters of an artist through his work, so we can understand the nature of God by observing the diverse things of creation. To further explain, in order to know the nature of God, it's like knowing the character of an artist through his work of art. So we know very well, by analogy, we know very well that God is the greatest artist because he created everything, the beautiful flowers, the plants, the sky. So he created those things with the nature beautifully. And that in order to know the character of God, we need to observe the creation. So what is common among the creation? In order to know the characteristic of God. Every entity possesses dual characteristic of yang and yin, or yang positivity or yin, negativity, yang masculinity and femininity. And it comes into existence only when these characteristics have formed reciprocal relationship both within the entity and between it and other entities. So It means that, in short, every entity in the world of creation has dual characteristic of yang and yin, or positive, negative in science and mathematics. In our practical life, it means man, male and female, or man or woman. So it means it is also pair system. Every creation was created in the pair system principle. So every entity has dual characteristic, the human and also the other entities. And take note, the direction of the, and take note that it says here, this entity, their existence is dependent upon forming reciprocal relationship, or their existence, the existence of these created beings is dependent or required them to have reciprocal relationship with their dual character, or with their partner, with their partners, or else they cannot exist. So they must have to form reciprocal relationship within the entity and within other entities to sustain existence. For example, atoms play either a positive or a negative valence. This is the subatomic particle, di ba? From subatomic particle, from yung positive charge to and negative charge to. So if there is a relationship between a positive charge, a particle with positive charge or negative charge, when they have relationship, it becomes, they form into an atom. The level of existence have become high. So plants propagate by means of stamen and pistil. The plants propagate through their seeds, but before there is a seed, okay, there must be interaction between the stamen part and pistil part of the flower, and this flower uh, becomes a fruit that bears the seed that wherein plants can be propagated. So it starts with the interaction of the stamen and pistil. And in animals, multiply and maintain their species through the relationship of males and females. So in order for animals to have baby animals, the male and female animals need to have uh, reciprocal relationship of their dual characteristic. Finally, human beings are either man or woman, and through the relationship of human beings, man and woman, they can also sustain their existence. So, to explain it further, let us read the words of Reverend Samyang Moon. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 reads, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them." This is in the Bible. What kind of being is God? God is a being within whom there are subject and object aspects. All seeds resemble their origin. Because God is the original cause of the universe, all created seeds are in God's image. When we look at the seed, regardless of what kind, you can see that there are two halves wrapped in one layer. This reveals the image of God Himself. So in the seed, you can see there are two halves, and that represent the yang and yin of heavenly parents. So a male and a female, or a man and a woman, represent each half of God's image. God's personality comprises plus and minus characteristics connected to the origin of life. In this way, God recreates his own image and relates with those created beings as his counterparts. Adam is his subject partner image, and Eve is his object partner image. Then why did God create them as separate beings? It is because he wanted to have them each grow to perfection individually. This is the explanation of the Reverend Moon about the dual characteristic of yang and yin, positive and negative, or the subject partner and object partner of God, which represent Adam and Eve. So, what is, however, besides the dual characteristic of yang and yin, there is another more fundamental pair of dual characteristic in reciprocal relationship. So the requirement is always, first we must remember, is there must be a reciprocal relationship for existence. So every entity possesses both an outer form and an inner quality. So every entity, whether it is uh, yang or a yin, a male or a female, it has an outer form. Individually, they have outer form and inner quality. The visible outer form resembles the invisible inner quality. So the outer form resembles the inner quality. It means it follows the outer form or the external form of every entity resembles what the direction of the inner quality. The inner quality is called external form. Since the internal nature and external form refers to corresponding inner and outer aspect of same entity, the external form may also understood as the second internal nature. So, as the external form follows the direction of the internal nature, the external form is understood or is said to be the second internal nature because it represents the desires of the internal nature. Therefore, the internal nature and external form together constitute dual characteristic. So when we say it, they constitute dual characteristic, the internal nature and external form are inseparable. So let us take an example, the human being. A human being is composed of an outer form, right? We have our body, the body, and an inner quality, the mind. just as what have been explained in the introduction. Mind is the internal nature and body is the external form. Mind and body are two relative aspects of human being. It means the mind and body is inseparable. It is it is part and of the of human being. And these two natures or two characteristics is inseparable. Hence, the body may be understood as a second mind. So, the body is understood as the second mind because the body follows the direction of the mind. They together constitute the dual characteristic of human being. If they form a relationship by the body following the direction of the mind, they constitute dual characteristic, and it means whatever the mind said, the body follows, so that this make them inseparable. That's why it constitutes dual character inseparable dual characteristic of every created beings. Similarly, all created beings other than human exist through the reciprocal relationship between their dual characteristic of internal nature and external form. So, having learned that human beings, the created beings of God, has two sets of dual characteristic. What is now the dual characteristic of God? What are now the dual characteristic of God? Following our analogy from the beginning, that uh, we can know the characteristic of the characteristic of an artist through his work of art. So, the first cause must also possess the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form, which stand in the position of subject partner to the internal natures and external form of all beings. When we say subject partner, it means subject partner is the partner that initiates and directs. So God, we call this first cause of the universe God. And we call God's internal nature and external form the original internal nature and original external form. Because God is the first cause, so the internal nature and external form of God are original internal nature and original external form, to differentiate it from the created being the first cause. So it is only natural to surmise that God, the first cause of all beings, also exists based on the reciprocal relationship between his dual characteristic of yang and yin. So the existence of God is also dependent on the reciprocal relationship of his the dual characteristic of yang and yin, which is the original yang and original yin. So same as a conclusion, uh, God's characteristic is the same as human, as humanity. If we say that we have the same characteristic, God and humanity has the same characteristic. What is the relationship of God and human beings? Anybody from the participant, can you answer that? What is the relationship of God and human beings then? If God is has the same the created beings, that's as humanity has the same dual characteristic as God. What is now our relationship with God? Can I hear from the participants? May kausap ako. May kausap pa ako. Sir Patrick, ano yung Patrick, ano yung relationship natin ngayon? Yung conclusion natin sa relationship ng God at humanity.
For me, ma'am, kanang according to the Bible na man is created from God's image and likeness. So, and in the kuan po, kanang lecture ay kanang previous slides na kanang kuan bitaw the creation is reflected from the kuan, the creator. So we are the God is the internal nature and we are the external form. Or
Wala si Ate Rina. Eh?
Wala yata sa internet si Sir Sir, wala siya. So, God said na God created human in likeness or in image. So, when we say in practical way, in the practical life, pag sinabi natin na, oy, kamukha ko siya.
Parang naglalag ka, te. So let's wait for a while, brothers and sisters. Who wants to sing while waiting? Actually, this is our tradition here. So we ask somebody to sing. And the one who don't laugh will going to sing. So I will ask.
Christinette.
Sino daw? Si Ate Christine. Ay, Christinette.
I will request Miss Jonah Saga po kasi singer po yan.
Jonah Saga?
Apo.
Saan?
Jonah May po.
Jonah May. Wala siya dito.
Nandyan siya po. Kasama po ni Ate Ana May po.
Okay, sample naman dyan, Jonah. Sige na. Let's welcome Jonah. Sige na, malay mo, manalo ka ng house and lot. Nakamute kayo. I-on nyo yung wala pa siya television.
Hi
Yun.
po.
Welcome, Jonah. May. It's our privilege to welcome you and sing to us.
kinakabahan tuloy ako. Bigla-bigla. Ay, pagod din eh. Uy! Ano yung sabi na?
Ayun, si Aterlina. Wait.
Nawala ako.
Te, okay na internet mo? Ikakanta na sana.
Naglag yung net ko.
Kaya,
Sorry
brothers
po.
and sisters, mag-pray kayo na okay yung internet natin.
Okay na ba?
Kasi
Narinig
paano
na ako?
makakanta? Yes, te, nakikinig ka namin. So, later na lang yun namin, okay?
So,
Prepare ka na
mag-share
lang.
na ako ulit, ha?
Yun namin, may
So,
utang
in
ka pa.
short, the relationship of God and human beings is, ano? So, the relationship of human beings is only, we can surmise the relationship of, since magkakamukha tayo, humanity are His children. Yun lang yung sinasabi dito sa dual characteristic, yung pagkakapareho, the similarity of the two sets of dual characteristics. And since God characteristic manifested in human beings and all creation, it means that human beings, being the Lord of the creation, we know that as Christians, is that we are God's children, and God is our parent. So what is now the relationship between the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form, and the dual characteristic of yang and yin? So, original internal nature, external form, it's contained the mutual relationship of original yang and original yin. So kanina sabi natin, yang and yin, they must in order, there must be a reciprocal relationship between yang and yin to maintain and sustain existence. So in order for the internal nature to sustain existence also, it must has the attributes of the original yang and yin, same with the original external form of heavenly parents and of God. And this is the relationship of the two sets of dual characteristic. So the original internal nature and the original external form has God is subject in whom the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form are in harmony. When we say in harmony, there is no conflict, diba? And when we say there is no conflict, it's perfect. So there is his original internal nature and original external form are in harmony. At the same time, God is the harmonious union of masculinity and femininity, which manifests the qualities of original internal nature and original external form respectively. This means that we know that each of the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form has the attributes of internal nature, no, yang and yin. So that's the reason why it says that there is a harmonious union in God. There is a harmonious union of masculinity and femininity. So again, this manifests that God is a perfect individual. And thus, as perfect individual, uh, since humanity resembles God dual characteristic of internal nature and external form, and also the yang and yin. So humanity needs to be perfect as Heavenly Father or God is perfect also. In relation to the universe, so in relation to the universe, God is the subject partner. When we say subject partner, again, as I have mentioned earlier, when we say subject partner, the one who initiates and the one who directs, okay? Having the qualities of internal nature and masculinity. So as a subject, God is the one who initiate everything like the creation and directs everything of the all internal natures of the created world, both human beings and other creation. And God is standing as masculinity over the creation. So if God is the subject partner in relation to the universe, there must be an object partner, and this object partner is the universe. So since God is standing on the masculinity level, so there must be femininity. So the partner is yung feminine part is the universe. In recognition of God's position as the internal and masculine subject partner, we call him God the Father. Kasi nga, dahil siya yung masculine subject partner. And also, we call the universe Mother Earth because of this reason. Still on relationship between God and the universe, God is the invisible subject partner and the universe as a whole is a substantial object partner to God in accordance with the principle of creation. So, since we cannot see God, God is the invisible subject partner who have the dual characteristic of original internal nature and original external form, and each of these characteristics has the attributes of the original yang and original yin. So God, dual characteristic manifests itself symbolically or in image as dual embodiments of truth which constitute the universe. So, through the principle or the agency of the principle of creation, God manifests himself in image to human beings and in symbol to all other things. Which also, and as human beings manifest the same dual two sets of dual characteristic as gods. And since the universe is the substantial, it is called substantial object partner because the created universe is the visible creation. And it means that the universe is the very proof that God exists, even though God is invisible. Since individual embodiments of truth are all substantial object partner of God resembling His original internal nature and original external form, they each possess within themselves both internal and external form and likewise both yang and yin. So as God's embodiment, all creation, whether in image or in symbol, manifests the manifest or are embodiments of the characteristic of God. So no matter, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na tao lang ako. Ganito lang ako. Parang yung pa-humble effect. Kasi we must have the confidence na we manifest God's characteristic and yung confidence na yun dapat palagi nating dala-dala. Even na mahirap lang ako, or maliit ako, or compared sa matangkad, ganun ako. So, hindi natin dapat tinitignan yon, but we must always carry this confidence that ako ni God, di ba? Kasi magkamukha kami, pareho kami, di ba? Ganun yun. Kahit na gaano ka-humble yung beginnings natin or yung ka-humble yung situation natin because compared to other beings or individuals, we have the same characteristic with God at ganun din sila. So, equal lahat yung tao or humanity. So, this bakit nawawala? May nawawala akong I cannot ko pala. Sorry. Anhay. Paano ko ito i-anhay? Sorry, may nawawala akong slide. So, as a summary, let me read to you Reverend Samyang Moon's word. The unification principle that God's teaches that God is invisible, absolute Lord with dual characteristic in harmony. As a being of dual characteristic, God created Adam and Eve as manifestation of His duality. He intended to be their vertical center when they grew up and connected horizontally through love. In other words, when Adam and Eve reached maturity, God's masculine characteristic would have entered Adam's mind, and God's feminine characteristic likewise would have entered Eve's mind. This does not mean that God is divided. God can be present in Adam's and Eve's mind because He is the Lord of dual characteristic. So, what we need to, as a conclusion, because of the dual characteristic of God, what we need to understand is the importance of, since God created Adam and Eve, there is a male and a female, a yang and yin. So so there must be a partner. If there is, it means that this is the important, we can see the importance of the only begotten daughter. So during the time of creation, there is an only begotten son, which and only begotten daughter, right? In the person of Adam and Eve, representing God's yang and yin. So in the end, after the in restoration also, there must be representing, since they are inseparable, so there must be representative of also. There cannot also there must also be a yin, the yin part of God. So this is the importance of the only begotten daughter. So it is not, in order for God's creation to be completed and perfected, there must be an only begotten son and an only begotten daughter. It must appear in the end of humanity, in the humanity's history. So that ends section 1 of the principle of creation.
All right, thank you so much, Terelina. Let's give her an applause, brothers and sisters. Yes, very informative and artistic lecture at Terelina. So we've learned about the dual characteristics. Very important to understand who is God so that we can be able to understand and solve all the problems that we have in our life. Yes, and kasi we have so many questions, um, but we were not able to answer those. It is because we don't know the origin. So in the next lecture, we will um, discuss more about the universal prime energy, the purpose of give and take action, in the fundamental foundation of life, which is the proportion foundation. And it will be discussed. I would like to welcome is the second gen, very young, but very talented. And I would like to welcome Kristen Bell, Diapera. Let's give her an applause.
Nakakano. Nakaka-pressure. Hello po everyone. So yun, I will try to make everything quick. So hello po ulit. My name is Christine Daltiatera and I'm 18 years old and yun lang po. So yun, today I will be talking about section 2, universal prime energy, the give and take action, and the four position foundation. So since from the previous section, sa lecture na binigay sa atin ni Ate Relina, we have learned that our origin is God. Since God is a causal being, we all are His results. So in this way, teka lang. Since we have already known that God is we have already discussed his characteristics, his dual characteristics, and when we look into many accounts, even in the Bible, we can actually there's a lot of definition and representation of who God is. So since God is the creator of all things, he is also the absolute reality, eternal, self-existent, and transcendent of time and space. So the fundamental energy of God's being is also eternal, self-existent, and absolute. So it is the origin of all energies and forces that allow created beings to exist. We call this the universal prime energy. So in this slide, or in this point, what it is trying to say, brothers and sisters, is that since God is the ultimate being who is eternal, self-existent, and transcendent. So the energy must also come from the origin. So, and we have known that our origin is God. So the fundamental energy that allows all being to exist thus came, comes from God as well. And we call this energy the universal prime energy. And then also, true Father said, Reverend Sun Myung Moon said, that the universal prime energy connects the whole. So it's explained based on the divine principle. So this is something that connects every individual, every entity in this created universe. So God's dual characteristics, as what discussed from the previous section, exist within everything and become the universal prime energy. So the essence is the same. And so when we have also learned from the previous section that every entity, every created being that yeah has a dual characteristic. So just as creation comes from God, the fundamental energy, that the creation needs in order to exist also comes from God. Hence, the causal energy, vertical energy coming from God, is what we all call the the, the universal prime energy. Now let's since we already discussed the universal prime energy, it's actually very simple to yeah, it's very amazing yung energy na yan. So it's just yung description and your discussion is very brief. So I hope you all were able to grasp it, even if it was a very brief discussion. Now let's go into the give and take action. So since when you are in the unification movement in the church, we always would be here. I don't know if it's true to everybody, but in my case, I somewhat always hear this term, give and take action. Um, yeah, I think we already have the idea what give and take action is. Kasi nga, our elders would continuously remind us about this one, and then yeah. So through the agency of the universal prime energy, as what we have discussed earlier, the subject and object elements of every entity form a common base and enter into interaction. This interaction in turn generates all the forces the entity needs for existence, multiplication, and action. So the interaction generating these forces through this process is called the give and take action. Universal prime energy and the forces generated by give and take action in a reciprocal relationship of cause and result, internal and external, and subject partner and object partner. So yeah, so universal prime energy is a vertical force, while the forces generated by give and take action are the horizontal forces. So let us examine in detail God and his creation in terms of the universal prime energy and the give and take action. So God's universal prime energy directs his eternal dual characteristics to form a common base for their mutual relationship. We have learned from the previous section that God has dual characteristics, his internal form and external form. So they then engage in give and take action. So based on the forces generated by this give and take action, the dual characteristics construct a foundation for their eternal reciprocation. This is the foundation for God's existence, upon which God eternally exists and generates all forces needed to create and sustain the universe. So without this give and take action, brothers and sisters, God himself won't be able to procreate. Create all of us, or even I know, have all of us exist as as um as a creator. So in the created universe, the dual characteristics that make up each being are empowered by the universal prime energy to establish a common base. So just like our body needs energy in order for us to move, all created beings need this universal prime energy to exist. Without this, just like what I have said earlier, brothers and sisters, we won't be able to exist in the very least. So, ayan. So they then engage in give and take action. So based on the forces generated by this give and take action, the dual characteristic construct a foundation for their continued reciprocation, just as what happens to God. So this becomes the foundation for their existence of each individual being, upon which the being becomes an object partner to God and is able to generate all forces necessary for its continued existence. So God also undergoes give and take action, and so us, his created beings, human beings, all the created beings in the world. And when we undergo such um when we undergo such process, we then become the object partner of God, which will once again undergo give and take action with God, who stands in the position of a our subject partner. So, for example, the atoms come into existence when electrons assemble about a nucleus and engage in electromagnetic interaction, which is also a type of give and take action. So when a positive ions and negative ions perform give and take action, they form a molecule and produce chemical reactions. The give and take action between positive and negative electric charges underlies all electrical phenomena. And this is not only limited to the atoms, but also to all, even to the tiniest particle in the body, our cell. So it is also there in the plants, and then the human beings, the animals, and then the interaction, the give and take action that occurs between plants and the animals, which is represented through the exchange of gases, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. And also, this can also be seen, the give and take action can also be seen manifested in the heavenly bodies and all the other created beings. So we might not be conscious about it, brothers and sisters, but actually everything that we see, there exists a give and take action. So there is that process that is happening, even if we don't, I know, even if we don't try, even if we don't know about it. Again. So now let's go into the concept or what happened in the garden. So the human fall, in essence, severed our relationship with God. So rather than attaining oneness with God, our ancestors joined in reciprocal relationship with Satan, thereby becoming one with him. That is why if we reflect, brothers and sisters, that is also why our elders and our leaders would continuously remind us not to perform give and take action outside the principle, because this is very dangerous. So Jesus was the only begotten Son of God. He attained oneness with God through perfect give and take action. So when we unite with Jesus in a perfect reciprocal relationship, we can recover our original God-given nature. We can cultivate a give and take relationship with God and become one with Him. This is how Jesus serves as a mediator for fallen people. He is our way, truth, and life, just as what have been stated in the Bible. Diba? Jesus said that He is our way, truth, and life, and we can only enter the kingdom of heaven through Him. So what does He mean by that? What actually Jesus is trying to say to us on that Bible verse is that we have to become completely, perfectly united with Him, performing a perfect give and take action with Jesus. So uniting completely and absolutely with Jesus. But then during that time, human beings fail. So our ancestors have failed once again, brothers and sisters. So Jesus came with love and sacrifice to give all that he had to humankind, even offering his life. So if we turn to him in faith, we will not perish but have eternal life. Just as stated in the book of John, chapter 3, verse 16. Sobrang mabilis po ba ako? I hope okay lang lahat. So yeah, it has been a subject, an object revolve and give and take action that the concept of eternity comes into being. Therefore, the conclusion is that God had to establish the principle of living for the sake of others in order to pursue eternity. So it is this that brings development, prosperity, and multiplication. So yeah, because of the give and take action, yung concept of eternity, yung sinasabi natin my forever ba is actually possible because of this.
Possible or real?
It's real. No, it's not possible. It's real. The concept of eternity is real. It is because of this process. Now, let's go into the four-position foundation, which realizes the three-object purpose through origin, division, union, action. Let's now first talk about the origin, division, union, action. So the process of God's creation begins when the dual characteristics within God form a common base through the prompting of his universal prime energy. As they engage in give and take action, they generate a force which engenders multiplication. This force projects the dual characteristics into discrete substantial object partners, each relating to God as its center. These object partners to God then assume the position of subject partner and object partner to each other as they are prompted by the universal prime energy to form a common base and engage in give and take action. So they then join together in harmonious union to form a new object partner to God. This whole process in which out of God, the origin, two entities are separately manifested and reunited in oneness is called origin, division, union, action. So from here, brothers and sisters, we have God, and then in the concept of God, he has his dual characteristics, right? His internal form and external form, and then that interaction between these two his characteristics result to the formation or to the creation of all the created beings here in the universe, which is represented in the form of a union. So this is the diagram that can simply put and simply show the origin, division, union, action. So in origin, division, union, action, the origin divides and then reunites because it wants something bigger. Thus, an object of God's love must divide and become bigger for the sake of God's love. God feels joy and shocking stimulation at the sight of his object partner becoming bigger before the invisible subject partner. So the union, brothers and sisters, also then become an object partner to God. So the three object purpose. So any of the four position relating from the origin, division, union, action, namely the origin, God, subject partner, and object partner, and their union may assume the position of subject partner and engage the other three as its object partners, forming a communion of three object partners. So when each of the four then acts as subject partner and enters into give and take with the other three revolving around it, they fulfill the three object purpose. Basically, what this one is trying to tell us, brothers and sisters, is that every entity in this four position foundation in this diagram, the origin, the division, and union action, every entity may interchange, and may assume the position of a subject partner, and then perfecting the three object purpose. So yun. So they in this way, from this diagram, we see that God, this is this is the basic representation of the four position foundation. See, God standing as God in the position of the origin, the subject partner and the object partner and the union. So in the three object purpose, the other four diagrams will show us that the union may assume the position of the subject partner, and God may also assume the subject partner, and as well as the object partner may assume the position of the subject partner, all rotating yin, and still manifesting harmonious relationship within each other. So to have a deeper context and to explain it more deeply, let's go into some examples. So in order to help us better understand the three object purpose, Father explained more deeply. We talk about three object purpose not in reference to the universe, but in reference to family ethics. The three object purpose refers to the complete unity of love. Hence, it is easy to understand if explained based on love. So, especially in the Philippines, I'm not saying that it's only true to the Philippines, but the bond in the Filipino and the Filipino families are very peculiar in a way, because not just in the Philippines but in in Asian countries, their bond to their families is really unique compared to other countries. I think you would all agree with this one. So yun, first example. So let us say that God is a grandfather and the union is his grandson. So if the grandson asks his grandfather to give him a piggyback ride and the grandfather does so, then the grandson becomes the subject partner and the grandfather an object partner. That is why there are no lows or highs in love. Everyone is one. Another example. So the same applies to a couple. If a wife asks her husband to massage her shoulders and then the husband accepts the request, then the wife becomes a subject partner and the husband an object partner. This is actually very true, since it is like a common knowledge to everyone that in a couple, the husband will always assume the position of the subject partner, because they serve as the head of the family. Everything goes every decision undergoes with the parents, with the father. So yeah. But then in this example, brothers and sisters, a wife may assume the position of the subject partner, and then her husband can also become the object partner. And then third, a mother unconditionally follows the father, and then the children follows the parents as if pulled by a magnet. God likewise also follows the children with joy. And lastly, an example is, if I show absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to God, then I, an object partner, can stand in the position of a subject partner. And God, who is a subject partner, will also follow me. So basically, brothers and sisters, yung point lang talaga ng three object purpose is that we all may assume the position of a subject partner. But then this does not happen in a snap of a finger. We always have to be mindful that this can only happen when we form a harmonious relationship with the other entities centering on God. So always dapat siya we always have to have vertical alignment. So yun yung pinaka-important. Before we can, kasi baka sabihin natin, pwede ko nang i-assume yung position ng leader ko. Kasi sabi nga ng lecture, pwede naman mag-interchange, di ba? It doesn't happen Like that, brothers and sisters. And I know you know naman. So yun, just a reminder to all of us. And especially to me as well. So yun. And then, I think ito na yung last topic, brothers and sisters. The Four Position Foundation. So, if nakaabot, I think nakaabot mo naman lahat dati. Na yung prayer, ewan ko ba, if nakaabot kayo nun, yung prayer natin, yung before magbowing, ginagawa natin yung Four Position Foundation. Hindi. Ewan ko kung naabutan nyo yun, pero naabutan ko kasi ewan ko ba? 2011 daw, sabi ng mama ko. It was way, way back na yung bowing niya nga, may Four Position Foundation, so you have to do like that, and that, and that. And nalimutan ko na, sorry po. But then yeah, it was very fun and yeah, unique yung, hindi yung katulad ng magbabaw natin ngayon na we just have to say, we have to prepare ourselves and then do the kyongbe diretso. But then before, hindi. Yeah, hindi ko rin malimutan yung word na the Four Position Foundation. So yeah, when through origin division union action, the origin, the subject partner and object partner projected from the origin and their union all fulfill the three object purpose, the Four Position Foundation is established. So, yan. So, yan. So, to summarize this, brothers and sisters, ayan. So, the Four Position Foundation is the root of the number 4. That, di ba nga kasi may 4 entities that is working and participating in this basic structure, in its structure. So it is also the root of the number 3 because it is the fulfillment of the 3 object purpose. And not only that, but then ito rin yung representation ng origin division union. Diba? So the Four Position Foundation is realized by God, husband and wife, and children, wherein God stands in the position of the union, the husband and wife in the subject partner and an object partner, and then the children as the union. So they complete the 3 stages of origin, division, union, action. Hence, the Four Position Foundation is also the root of the principle of 3 stages. Furthermore, each of the 4 position is the foundation is the fundamental. Furthermore, each of the 4 position in the Four Position Foundation takes on 3 object partners in fulfilling the 3 object purpose. In total, they are 12 object partners. They will be may 12 na object partners that would be resulting, and then hence it is also the root of the number 12. So the Four Position Foundation is the fundamental foundation of goodness. It is the realization of God's purpose of creation. It is the fundamental foundation for the life of all beings, providing all the forces necessary for their existence and enabling God to abide in them. Therefore, the Four Position Foundation is God's eternal purpose of creation. Actually, basically, brothers and sisters, yung Four Position Foundation, it's the basic structure talaga, blueprint ni God, sa creation ni God. Everything, the process is the give and take action. The energy is the universal prime energy. But then everything will go, yung, tawag nito, I forgot the term. But yan, yung, everything, the give and take action, the universal prime energy can actually, yung pinaka focal point niya, yung pinaka is yung Four Position Foundation, because without the yung parang ito na yung ito na talaga yung basic block ng all relationship in all structures in the created universe. So without completing the Four Position Foundation, everything follows. So yun, hindi siya magiging complete. So siya na yung parang complete and perfect na talaga na representation ng diagram and yung blueprint ni God, yung Four Position. And that is why it is always important to establish four position harmonious relationship in the four position foundation. And then always sa four position foundation, yung pinaka-important na dapat ma-remember natin is that we always have to know our alignment, yung vertical alignment. Kasi dun lang naman na dun lang talaga natatalo tayo. So dun lang, yeah, brothers and sisters, because even in the secular world, in this fallen world that we are all living in right now, four position foundation is basically there. The give and take action is basically there. But then what is missing to us is our origin. Yung kasi dun talaga tayo natalo eh. So, which is kind of really, and not kind of, which is very, very sad. But then we have to fulfill our portion of responsibility. It is already up to us naman talaga. So, to conclude, the four position foundation is a foundation within the family centering on God, which is established when Adam and Eve become completely one, so they can never leave the realm of God's love, form an ideal couple, and multiply children, and not just an ordinary children, but godly children. So when this four position foundation is established, Adam and Eve become united through the love of husband and wife, centering on God, and become unable to leave the realm of God's love. So I hope yun lang yun, brothers and sisters. I hope nakuha niyo siya kahit medyo mabilis yung pagkaka-deliver ko sa inyo. But then yeah, it's important that we understand these deeply kasi it's very important. Like very important. More important than actually knowing about the rest of history. I mean, I'm not saying that hindi important yung history, but then we always have to go back to our origin, God, and then the reality of all the creation in yan. Kasi if we don't actually understand this, brothers and sisters, especially the four position foundation, the give and take action, and then the rest of the it's not impossible that we will commit the same mistake that our ancestors have committed. So yun, I hope we all have understood something, and I think that would be all. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. So, yun, very understandable, and yeah, a lot of things that we've learned from this lecture, especially the give and take action. All right, so now since we all know that from the section 1, we have this relationship, parent-child relationship with God, because we understood God through the creation, and we are part of the creation. Whatever the characteristics of the creation, also the characteristic of God. So there's a connection between God and human being. That is the parent-child relationship. And when we proceed to the section 3, why everything existed, it is because of the energy within God passing through all the created beings, and it will not continue unless there will be give and take action. Father mentioned this one about living for the sake of others, but that is why hindi tayo pwedeng mabuhay kung mag-isa lang tayo. We all need someone, right? Sa dual characteristics pa lang, there's a positive and negative, which means, alam mo na, kung lalaki ka, you need a female. If you're a female, you need a male, right? That is the principle of the universe that we cannot deny. This is not only in the Bible, but this is, we could say in science, right? We cannot deny this one. This is basic science, undeniably. So, and now we will proceed section 3, the last lecture for tonight, about the purpose of creation. So since we are the children of God, what is the purpose why God created us? We all know that we are the created being of God, but what is the purpose of God? So without further ado, I would like to welcome the origin of Bea. Of course, God is the origin. We all know that one. But uh, kailangan may mediator. So that is through the her mother, of course. Yeah, without further ado, I would like to welcome our mother here, Ate Sylvia Amelio Diapera. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Kuya Herwin, for that very kind and generous introduction. Yeah, just like you said, I so happen to be very instrumental to become the steward of this young girl that you just hear a while ago. Yeah, sabi niya kanina nakaka-pressure daw. Mas nakaka-pressure po kaya kasi, well, anyway, nakaka-pressure po kaya pagka nag-lecture ka, yung anak mo nag-lecture. Paano na lang kaya ako, Diyos ko Lord. But anyway, yeah, my task tonight is to share with you, to discuss, and to learn along with you. Section 3 of the Divine Principle, the chapter 1 of Divine Principle. So yeah, let me share my screen first. So I really hope, brothers and sisters, that you are still well, you're still okay, that you can still endure. Yeah, I hope that you can still absorb some of the discussions that I will be um, conveying to you. Anyway, just like Kuya Herman has said, this section, we have to know the purpose of creation. Why did God have created, say, the universe and finally us, human beings? So the purpose of creation of the universe. It is recorded in the Bible that um, after in Genesis chapter 1 verse 4 to 31, this was the how God created everything in the universe. After God completed each day of creation, he saw that it was good. So all creations, we know very well that it does come from God, and we have to understand. Yeah, we have to always keep in mind what is the reason why He had created. God created all creation. So yeah, before pala I continue, we also have learned in the first chapter, in the first section. It was discussed that God has dual characteristics, and it is actually um, clearly manifested in all creations. And then in chapter 2, in section 2, it was also um, discussed about the universal prime energy. Which is, I should add on that when Aterina was talking about the internal nature and the external form of God as his dual characteristics, I should have to pronounce that and the universal prime energy is the external form of God, and then the external form of God. So here, we should understand. It is also being said that the creation is on the subject position. I'm sorry. God as the subject, on the subject position, and creation is in the object position. Okay? So, alamin pa rin natin, bakit kailangan ni God ng object partners? No? And then, of course, we have to, and it should suggest that God wanted His creations to be the object partners, embodying goodness, that He might take delight in them. So, yun yung pala. Kailangan niya ng object partners of goodness, that He would take delight on them. Pero ang tanong, paano nga ba natin, how would I rephrase it? Paano nga ba may Bisaya ba dito or Tagalog or English? Pwede ba magbinisaya? Paano nga ba how are we going to, how would I say it? Kasi baka magkamali ako ng term. Paano nga ba ma-arrive? Bisaya. Ma-arrive. Ano ba to? Paano nga ba natin ma-achieve ang how would God take delight on His created beings. Let us study further. Ouch. Hindi ko marunong. Teka lang po. Ayan, ayan. Why? How is God's joy be realized? We should know that God created human beings as the final step in creating the universe. He created them in his image, in the likeness of his internal nature and external form. And I should say, how did God created us through manifest his internal nature? It is through our mind, and external form through our body, and that all the sensibility of to all feelings and emotions actually God endowed to us. After the creation, God blessed Adam and Eve to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the creation. That is stated in Genesis chapter 1 verse 28. So, ito yung tatlong blessing na dapat sana na na-achieve ng first human ancestors ng ating unang perfected being na nakita si God in the creation. Thus, their purpose, of course, when these two should have form a proper give and take to each other is, we know ito God is original being, Adam and Eve is his discrete manifestation of his dual characteristics, right? So in the previous chapter, in the previous section, it was clearly said na from the origin, there is a division which is in the manifestation of Adam and Eve, but Adam and Eve should have been able to form a good, harmonious relationship, thus having them into that action would create another entity, which is the union. And then, kung to ay na-receive o na-achieve ni Adam and Eve, thus making them be able to fulfill or achieve the three great blessings. And then, when they have achieved the three great blessings, they should have established the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So, yan. So, ating continue, had Adam and Eve, kung si Adam and Eve lang sana nag-obey sila sa word, if they had obeyed the word and fulfilled the three great blessings, they should have built the kingdom of heaven there, and there is no doubt that God would have felt so much, or the greatest joy into his children or his sons and daughters should have rejoiced the same in the world of this ideal. So hence, we should now understand that the ultimate purpose of the universe, then, therefore, with human beings as its center, is to return joy to God. So yun dapat, at saka yun dapat ang tandaan natin na yun yung purpose ng bawat isa sa atin. We are owed to return joy to God. But we can only return joy to God when we will be able to fulfill the three great blessings. Paano ba natin mafulfill ang three great blessings? First, we have to become the true object partner of God. Pero paano ba tayo magiging true object partner ni God? We should be able to achieve unity between mind and body. Kasi si Adam o si Eve, ano na yan? That's already the bigger spectrum of ourselves, no? So dapat, and then when we form a good give and take relationship within ourselves, we then become fruitful, or we achieve maturity in character, thus qualify us to somehow qualify us to become like as a mature man and woman, or man and woman with perfected character, go into our relationship, thus allowing us or qualifying us to multiply, to procreate God's centered children. Thus, and then it will, and as a person or an individual who have achieved perfected character, we can then become and not just form a family, a society, or a nation with the responsible citizenry who can dominate or take care and enhance the whole creation. So that would be the kingdom of heaven here on earth. And when that happens, therefore, of course, we can return joy to God. So, yan. So, why did God created Adam and Eve? Sinabi ko na po, being invisible, God being the invisible and cannot be seen, God cannot love his children who have external forms without becoming a father or mother with a substantial external form. So, kailangan ni God ng substantial body or form. This is the reason, for this reason, God created Adam and Eve to have a body. So, God created Adam and Eve for the following purposes. First, the invisible God will have a physical form through Adam's body. Second, through the body, God can feel a shocking vibration and brings him joy. Like stimulation talaga. Words alone are insufficient to describe this kind of stimulation that God could have ever felt if man and woman should have had reached perfection. Unfortunately, alam natin na hindi nangyari. Ano? And the third reason is God will find a surface area for as the vertical father of the central axis. He does not himself have a surface area. So yun, wala kasi siyang kung wala siyang malulugaran ika nga dito sa mundong ibabaw dito sa in this universe ika. So yan. So we should have had to keep mindful of this purpose. Now, we have to also understand the dual purpose. Kasi when God has dual characteristics and we know the purpose now, we should have given joy, we should return joy to God, but we should have to understand this dual purposes. And what are these dual purposes? Let us study together. All entities have dual purposes. Every entity has dual centers of movement. Kasi alam natin na meron tayong dual, yung projection ni God, yung internal at saka external. So therefore, there are also two centers of movement. One of the internal nature that is being represented by our mind, and the other of the external form, which is represented by our physical body. These centers pursue corresponding purposes for the sake of the whole and for the sake of the individual. So, yung purpose na ito, kahit mind has its dual purpose na ang first, of course, para sa mas nakakarami or sa mas bigger purpose, and meron din yun in itself, meron din siyang individual purpose. So, ganun din ang pariho, yung internal at saka external. Meron silang parihong dual purpose or whole purpose or at saka individual purpose, whose relationship is the same as that between internal nature and external form. So, ano bang klaseng relationship ito? Ang relationship na ito ng dalawang center dual purpose ng entity na ito, which say, for example, the mind and body is inseparable. Hindi sila pwedeng magkahiwalay. Magkakabit sila talaga kahit saan at kahit kailan. Because when the whole purpose has to suffice the individual purpose, the individual purpose naman will serve the greater purpose. So ito yung sana na I don't want to give you more example on this kasi alam ko na we all know the principle. Pero sana we can also reflect on this na because I know that we understand this very clearly about yung dual purpose natin. Kaya nga we are trained that way na our whole purpose will always be the priority. So we have to continue studying this two, that in God's ideal, there cannot be individual purpose, yung sinabi ko sa unahan a little bit, which does not support the whole purpose. So yung individual, nagsusupport talaga sa bigger purpose. But on the other hand, there can be any whole purpose that does not guarantee the interest of the individual. So para bang kung nasa community na if may isang halimbawa, may gagawin ang isang institution or say the government, merong proyekto, and then it is geared towards, for example na lang, tree planting, for example lang. Yung tree planting is hindi lang yun para sa pansarili nilang kapakanan, but then if the trees will grow up, and it will not just give off oxygen, it will not just give us shed, it will not give us just maybe logs and water, but it also would it would also give us protect us from the calamities or some erosion, something like that. So yung individual purpose ng tree is maybe um, pwede lang siyang para ang individual ng purpose ng tree, if there are so many, it is to strengthen. It is to add more. Kung pag-give off ng oxygen, yeah, it would add strength. If it is it is going to acquire carbon dioxide, syempre yung isang tree, hindi na kailangan kunin ng isang tree pa ang makuha ng each tree. Kumbaga, kung mas maraming tree, mas maraming ma-absorb na carbon dioxide. So, nakikita natin na kung iisa lang, mas lesser yung strength kumpara sa marami. So, yun yung mas shorter na ano. So, the infinite variety of beings in the universe form one vast organic body interwoven by these dual purposes. So, dapat nating maintindihan na bawat isa sa atin, we may be an individual, pero our existence does not happen only for our own sake, but rather it has a bigger purpose that would complement to the needs of the other. So, dapat ganun din natin maintindihan yung ating existence. Hindi lang yun na, kailangan kong makareach ng perfection and that's it. Hindi. When we reach perfection, we should be able to understand further kung ano pa yung mas higher purpose natin for the benefit of the whole. Okay? So, I know that you are all blessing candidates. We should have always be aware of this, no? Na especially yung nasa process na sometimes when we are madali lang kasing mag-isip para sa sarili natin, but if we can understand this dual purpose, I mean the greater purpose, then there is no way for us to somehow maybe vindictive or judgmental to the other, but rather any challenges that will come along our way, we should be able to look at it like, yeah, I needed this because I need to improve and I need to embrace, learn to how to embrace more character, something like that. So gusto ko lang, but why did I give it as an emphasis? Kasi ito yung pinakang reason why we have to study God's dual characteristics. Why do we have to study give and take relationship? Why do we have to study the four position foundation, which cannot be done by forever by an individual? And then finally now, we have to find meaning and purpose of our existence. So kailangan nating maintindihan ito, especially because we are preparing ourselves to receive the blessing. Kasi these topics would really also make us give us more foundation in the later discussions on how are we going to be able to, because alam natin na we are all fallen, how are we going to be able to really overcome, or how are we going to restore what was lost in the Garden of Eden? So, para mas maintindihan pa natin kung ano yung sinasabi natin about this dual greater purpose and the individual purpose, let us take this for an example. Even if the family properties legally belong to the parents, in reality, they also belong to, they belong to the parents and the children. In other words, they are under common ownership in the family. So each of the family members receives his or her individual room, clothes, and allowance. In this manner, the whole purpose and the individual purpose actually harmonizes within the family. So, in a bigger scale, the ideal society ownership system is an expansion of the ideal form of possession in the loving family to society, nation, and the world. So kung titingnan natin kung sana naintindihan nating lahat, kung sana hindi naging fallen ang ating lineage, kung sana hindi tayo brood of vipers, hindi tayo anak ng ni Satan, this could have been established, but unfortunately hindi ito nangyari. Kaya ito yung there is a really great necessity for us to understand this one, and we should be grateful to our true parents, because without our true parents we couldn't be have this opportunity to understand all this. So kaya sana kasi alam ko mayroong na alam ko na marami sa atin tayong lahat knew the principle, but and this time I hope na if there is a little that we may not have understood, we can have deepened it a little bit this time. So yeah, so let us now continue to study about the good object partners of the joy of God. So kung ano natin kanina na ang purpose natin is to return joy to God, right? So paano nga ba ma-produce yung joy? Yun yung tanong. So joy is not produced by an individual alone. Kaya nga katulad ni God, kahit na siya ay omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, he, even if he's the most absolute, eternal, unchanging God, he cannot produce joy in himself. So that's why he had to have an object partner to return that joy to him. So kung ano mang klaseng source ng joy na yon, it's either substantial and intangible. So joy arises when we have an object partner, whether intangible or substantial, in which our internal nature that is represented by our mind and external form that is reflected in our body are reflected and developed. Our object partner stimulates us and helps us to feel our own internal nature and external form. So, yeah. So, yan. So, God feels the fullness of joy when He is stimulated by His own substantial object partners to feel His original internal nature and original external form through them. So, titingnan natin dito kung halimbawa, kung halimbawa dito sa intangible source of joy. Halimbawa, artists. Isang, yung nagdo-draw na lang. Meron siyang idea na maybe I wanted to draw a flower, a beautiful flower. In itself, parang natutuwa na siya. But then, when that artist is able to draw that beautiful flower in his mind or her mind, in substance, mas nakakaramdam siya ng saya, actually. Mas, I think, yun yung. O halimbawa, an artist who is a composer, meron siya naiisip na kanta, halimbawa lang. And then, gusto niya i-put into, gusto niya lagyan ng lyrics at saka notes. In his mind, wow, it's like stimulating. But when that kind of piece may be put into, can be written and then be, parang malagyan siya ng melody and then finally be sung beautifully, in that particular person who had composed the song will actually feel immense joy and happiness. So, yun yung mga example, no? And then, halimbawa na lang kayo, mga young people, nag-iisip kayo ng possible good family. Kaya kayo nag-join ng blessing. But then, just like everyone else or the other ones who were ahead of you, kailangan nating gawin yung ating mga kailangan gawin or portion of responsibility to be short, to shorten it. But then when all your efforts and hard works could be manifested in your children, that then you can be able to feel more than the desire, the joy that you can feel when you have first received the blessing, the matching it. It is different when you can already see the fruit of your hard work. So I am looking forward that you guys will be eyeing to that moment. Now that's why you have to work harder and determine more. Kasi yun yung pinaka-essence why you are studying this divine principle. So please understand this one. So when the kingdom of heaven is realized through the fulfillment of the three great blessings and the establishment of the four position foundation, it becomes the good object partner in the partner that gives joy to God. So para anuhan natin, yung kanina yung sinasabi ni Belle, ni Christine, na yung four position foundation in the individual level, na yung God is the object, the subject partner, and then projected in a mind and body discretely, no? And when this mind and body form a harmonious relationship centering upon God, then it can create a good person in himself. And this person or me who is united with God can really inherit the heart of God and reflect the value of God. Actually, yun ang unang first blessing, di ba? And then yun, pagka we can be an good object partner to God as an individual. Pero alam naman natin na yung purpose of creation is tatlo, diba? Yung ma-achieve natin yung tatlong blessing. Hindi lang sa individual, kundi magiging dapat mag-multiply tayo. And of course, that partner of yours that has to qualify and to become your true object partner that would form a good harmonious relationship centering upon God will allow us or qualify us to procreate God and good children. So, ito yung pangalawang blessing. And then yun sabi ko na kanina na pagka ito ay napadami and then we can dominate the whole creation, take care of the creation, responsible citizens, then God can actually feel immense joy as to all of His creation. That's making us fulfill the three great blessings. This will definitely return a tremendous joy to God's heart. So yun, dapat nagiging dapat nagiging aware tayo na ito yung ating pinakang purpose why God had created us. So, though God is the absolute being, He cannot for a while. He cannot be happy by Himself alone. Adjectives such as good and happy cannot apply to any being that lives in isolation. Kaya nga, no man is an island. Kahit sabihin karon, di ba, parang, what's this? Meron na tayong sinasabi na LGBTQ, ano ba yan? Kasi we have may sinasabi tayong mga freedom whatsoever. But dapat alam natin ngayon na yung absolute destiny natin of being a man or a woman, hindi yun nangyari by coincidence or by random. God actually had made it in purpose kasi alam niya kung ano yung pinakang essence of our existence. Na yun yung dapat natin madiscover at this moment, especially that we have the ultimate truth. We have the principle. So, I hope now we can always be aware of this. Na along the way, as we have to continue with our life of faith, we can always be reminded of this, no? So, to continue, they apply only where there is a reciprocal relationship. Imagine a professional singer who finds herself on an inhabited island. She may sing at the top of her voice, but with no one to listen and to appreciate it, it will not bring her happiness. So this is very real. Kahit halimbawa, marunong akong kumanta, wala namang nakakarinig. Actually, I cannot recognize na marunong o magaling akong kumanta if there is no person who would appreciate that I know how to sing. Parang ganun. So katulad ng mga artista dyan na gusto natin, dahil magaling kumanta, marunong umakting or marunong sumayaw, why do we, kaya sila nakakaramdam ng more energy to perform or to show their ability or their talents? It is because of the people who finds joy to what they have manifested. So happiness, continue. Happiness is not learned, but it is felt through an object partner. So hindi yun basta lang na, masaya ako kasi nalalaman ko tinuturo dun sa school. Walang ganun. Hindi totoo yun. Hanggang nararanasan natin, then we can understand what this is. Okay? So in other words, God created this world to feel happiness by seeing human beings, and the creation become one through God's love and form a world of harmonious love. So, yun yung pinakang rason why God created us. Now, we will talk about the three blessings. So, the key to God's first blessing is the perfection of individual character. Sinasabi ko na to ahead. An individual's mind and body are discrete projections and object partners of God's dual characteristics. In order for an individual to perfect his character, he must form an individual four-position foundation whereby his mind and body become one individual through give and take action with God as their center. So, originally, prior to the fall, ito dapat talaga ang ideal. Alam natin na ito yung pinakang purpose ni God of creation. Yung eternal purpose ni God of creation. Yung ang tao as his center of all his creations, dapat maka-achieve nito ng first blessing. In here, dito natin ma-inherit ang value ni God. But the thing is, alam natin na hindi nangyari yun. Diba? Because Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden failed. So, bakit kaya later on in the next sections, actually, especially in the chapter 2, we will understand more kung bakit nangyari yon. But now, we only have to focus na ito dapat ang gawin natin. And since, sige, sabihin ko na lang na, hindi kasi nangyari. So, we have to understand, at the present moment, iba ang reality natin. Hindi ito yung sinasabi natin. That's why we have to have a complete, to practice absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to the word. Before the fall, ang word na yon is yung sinabi ni God to Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then, ngayon, of course, it is the same, kaya lang, it is being elaborated further, in detail, kung ano pala to yung fruit na yon. So, yun, malalaman natin yan in the next chapter, no? So, yan. So, dapat, sana tayong lahat maka-achieve nito. But I will reiterate, we can only achieve this if we will have absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to the word. Okay, from the word of God. So, yun. Walang automatic talaga na makaka-achieve nito because we just wanted to. It will take process. It has to go through some process. Okay? So, next, the second blessing is the family perfection. So, in fulfilling God's second blessing, individual perfected Adam and Eve should construct a God-centered family for position foundation by joining in loving oneness as husband and wife and raising children. So, parang paulit-ulit ko lang sinasabi to, but why you do think this is being repeated and reiterated over and over? Because this is something very important that we have to truly, truly understand and inculcate not only in our minds, but also in our hearts. Because this is our weapon. This is the very secret for us to be able to achieve and realize the three great blessings. Okay? Especially blessing candidates. We have to truly try to really ask and implore God's intervention in this, because sometimes if we will rely much on our own capacity, it is very easy for us to sway away from the very main stream. Okay, so yeah, in the family level, from an individual level who had reached perfection, from individual level who had reached perfection, centering upon God, by having a harmonious relationship between mind and body, that individual person, either a man or a woman, would then qualify if these two form a good harmonious relationship centering upon God, then we will be able to procreate good children or God-centered children, thus forming as a family level for position foundation. So itong dito, ang God, mind and body and our individual, ito yung individual for position foundation. Now, to proceed, to continue, wait a minute, sorry po. So let's say, prior to creating human beings, God created the natural world, expressing partial reflections. Wait a minute ha, pwede na ako magitaan. Oh no, hindi na ako siya makuha. Yan. Ay, sige. God created the natural world, expressing partial reflections of the internal nature and external form He had conceived for human beings. So consequently, a human being contains within itself the sum total of the essences of all things. So tayo yung summary, actually tayo yung blueprint ng lahat ng created beings ni God. This is the reason He is called the microcosm or of the cosmos. Human beings can govern the creation because they contain all the elements, structures, and qualities found in animals and plants. So halimbawa na lang, ang tao, dito na, babasahin ko na. Human vocal cords are so versatile that they can imitate virtually any animal sound. You see, a plant leaf corresponds to the human lung in appearance and function. Branches and stems of plants correspond to human circulatory system, which distributes nourishment to the entire body. So the xylem and the phylum correspond to human arteries and veins, as well as the roots of a plant correspond to the human stomach and intestine, which absorbs nutrients. So ganyan tayo lahat ng meron ang lahat ng created beings ni God. yung in plants and animals, ay nakikita dito sa atin. Hindi nga lang, yun nga lang, because of the fall, hindi natin yan naiintindihan. But this time, I hope we can able to understand it. Okay? So, saan siya din? Murag wala na din kung nakasabot sa sunod. Okay. So, yan. So, for us to go further, as described in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, in the third blessing, God said, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish and of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. The meaning of God's third blessing is the perfection of human beings' dominion, or I should say, para mas madaling yung responsible beings over the natural world. So when we say responsible, alam natin paano alagaan, alam natin para padamihin, alam natin paano protektahan ang ating paligid. So to fulfill this blessing, the four-position foundation of dominion must be established centering on God. So human beings are, and the natural world, which are the substantial object partners of God at the level of image and symbol. Alam natin na ang human beings is created in God's image, while the natural world and the whole universe is created in symbol to God's existence and dual characteristics. Both can be form a harmonious relationship, and thus both can share love and beauty to become completely one as the universe. Itong dalawa na to. Thus, we, through the harmonious relationship, kasi pag tinitake care natin ang kalikasan, iti-take care din tayo ng kalikasan. Ika nga, that is to be short, to be mas madali ang hindi tayo magkaroon ng flood kung hindi tayo mag-illegal logging, parang ganon. So, if it can form, definitely we will be able to create a good universe, a good Mother Earth to abode na pwede nating titirhan yun. And this universe could form also a good harmonious relationship to God. So ang tayong lahat, itong tatlo na ito will become sa explanation ni Christine na it can realize the three object partner, thus making itong dalawa having a horizontal relationship with God, and the universe being the result of the union of these two can have also a harmonious relationship kasi ito man yung parang unity ng dalawa, no? Yung sum ng dalawa. And then we can be able to become one with God. Thus, of course, we return beauty to God. So ito yung pinakang essence why of the third blessing. Ito yung talagang totoong dominion over the creation. Thus, allowing us to form the four-position foundation of dominion. So ito yung complete realization ng three great blessing, which is the very purpose of creation. So the realization, now we have to study the realization of the purpose of creation. God's purpose of creation been realized in this way kung sana yung tatlong sinasabi natin kanina nangyari, an ideal world without even a trace of sin would have been established on the earth. We call this the world, the kingdom of heaven here on earth. Pero gusto kong i-remind tayo na hindi yun mangyari lang ng automatic because we have to practice, absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to the word. And prior to the fall, that word was, the commandment of God was, do not eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay? So in the kingdom, kung sana nangyari yun na nag-maintain ng absolute faith, love, and obedience si Adam and si Eve dun sa word ni God, then they could have established the kingdom of heaven and here on earth. Wala sana tayong kasalanan. Unfortunately, it did not happen, no? So, yeah. Yun, pag-aralan natin yun further later on. So, in the kingdom of heaven, God's direction will be conveyed to all his children through the true parents of humankind, guiding everyone to live as one. So, see, Adam and Eve, which is the identified first human ancestors, the man and a woman who could have been in the process of growing, had they been able to completely become one with the word of God by maintaining absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience, then they could have become the true parents of humankind. And then ang word ni God, ang will ni God, lahat-lahat maindo doon sa Bisaya, doon sa kanila. So this could become the true parents would be able to responsibly guide their children, and they can live as one. And that's of course forming a kingdom of heaven here on earth. Yun ang sana output nung yung result, yung end result ni Adam and Eve fulfilling the three great blessing or achieving the three great blessing by following the maintaining absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to the word of God. Which is, ano nga yung word ni God? Do not eat the fruit. Yun. Sana yung kanilang abiding word na, a guiding word na for them to be able to reach individual or able to realize the individual four position foundation, and then later on the family level four position foundation, and finally the four position foundation on the dominion. Sana na-achieve na nila yon, and they should have qualified as true parents. So, brothers and sisters, the reason why I am reiterating this, because this is also our mission at this time. As an individual, as people who has been preparing to receive the blessing, and then having known the principle and learning the principle further, knowing God through our lectures, we should always be, and we should be able to reflect in ourselves what is this mission that we are owed to do, because we are now placed in the position of the new Adam and the new Eve through the divine principle that we are all studying. Thank you very much. Kamsahamnida. Good evening. Yan po.
Thank you very much, Sylvia.
Huh?
Let's give a round of applause, brother.
Ang tagal-tagal pa na.
Right, so we have 3 minutes more. Yes,
I'm
that
sorry
is the
po.
purpose of creation, and actually, we've learned from there that it is to give joy to God, right? But yung pinaka-conclusion talaga nun is to establish the three great blessings. Kaya ngayon, this 21 days is the preparation for us to receive the blessing, and in order for us to give joy and happiness to God, to inherit the love of God, to manifest God Himself. And yeah, 3 sections pa lang tayo. So another 3 sections in the next meeting. And I do hope na marami kayong natutunan. We usually ask questions from you guys if may mga hindi kayo naintindihan or kailangan nyo i-clarify. But since we don't have much time, and so keep it yourself and bigay nyo sa amin next meeting. Okay. Pero huwag nyo kami pahirapan masyado ah. Kami pa naman taga-Bohol dito. Anyway, yes,
Pwede lang magbinisaya, kuya?
Bisaya na lang siguro.
Binisaya na lang ta para ma-practice nagbinisaya kay in English ta. Kuya
Hope yung mga taga Manila.
Oh,
alright,
po,
yes.
please.
Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. And yeah, gaya rin sinasabi nga namin dito, our purpose of studying the principle, kasi alam na natin yung principle, you've heard already many times, but again and again, after this one, please bring home the bacon. Please apply the principle that we've learned here. Pinakasimple, kahit isa lang, sabay na within the session, kahit isa lang. Like for example, give and take action. Live for your brothers and sisters. Simply as that. It will really, you are manifesting the principle of God. So I hope na pagkatapos nito, hindi lang basta mawala. Ganon din ako dati kasi. I'm listening the lecture. Pagkatapos ng lecture, kasi pagkatapos ng lecture, mag-uusap na kasi sa mga brothers and sisters. So wala na yung nasabi ng lecturer. Ganon. So it's very important right now, especially kasi gabi yung ginagawa natin. even before you go to bed, when you pray, yeah, pray also with what you've learned in this 20 this tonight's lecture. Yeah, mga magaling yung mga lecture natin. Yes. Thank you so much. Let's give a hand again to Bea, to Ate Sylvia, Ate Relina.
I'm
So
sorry to
yung,
keep you so
yung
much.
reflection nyo, we will ask also reflection after the oral reflection. Sa isahin kayo. But since wala nang time, sayang talaga. Sayang.
Sorry po.
Don't say sorry, because it actually yung ano kasi yung principle of creation talaga mahaba talaga yan. It's really kaya nga i-divide pa nga natin, di ba? 1 2 3 tapos 8 4 5 6 next meeting. It is because mahaba talaga. And makikita mo sa determination ng mga lecturer natin that they are really investing themselves just to explain to you guys in a simple way, simple explanation. We are not professional like others, right? But this is the practical way of substantializing the principle na lagi nating nare-receive everyday sound. So, I do hope.
But also
All right,
invited
so
by.
thank you so much. And let's end this with a prayer. Who wants to volunteer? Usual, ganun naman talaga.
Ako na po.
All right. Sige.
So, brothers and sisters, let us pray. Good evening to you, our loving heavenly parents and good cheers to parents, our parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Truly, at this very moment, heavenly parents, we are very grateful because you have given us the opportunity to gather as one family. And we have so many young people here, heavenly parents, whom you had prepared and been prepared by their ancestors for thousands of years as well, who could be contributor in this very golden time where our true parents has existed. I believe that they would become the second liners of elder first generation and second generation as well, heavenly parents. So may it be that all of us can, even if we may not have um, fully grasped everything. But I just like our choir when I said that may slowly we can really be able to discern, reflect, and at the same time implore your intervention in human parents and not rely on our individual capacity to somehow understand or just cognitively understand what we had been talking here, but really to discern and actually digest artistically, heavenly parents, understand it fully by heart, heavenly parents, for us to be able to practice it in our daily life in preparation to that very greater responsibility that we need to do, that is to make ourselves qualified to become your co-creator and the procreator of your God children, heavenly parents, as a people whom you had entrusted and have absolute faith with. Now, we would like to express to you in unison our gratitude as well as our commitment to do our utmost best, Heavenly Parents, with sincerity, to study and to really try to practice what our true parents have taught to us. Do not allow us to become a spectator, but rather make use of us all, Heavenly Parents, to become a true contributor, Heavenly Parents, especially in this time that here in our country we are preparing for the coming rally of hope, Heavenly Parents, as a condition of our for the healing and the restoration of our country, as well as for in contribution to the whole world's healing, Heavenly Parents, and restoration as well. So kindly use each and every one, Heavenly Parents, to really do and offer our utmost best in fulfilling our responsibility as we promise it to do it, Heavenly Parents. And do not worry about us, Heavenly Parents, because we're together and through our unity we can do better and we can really be able to offer more, Heavenly Parents. Thank you so much for all our mentors and elders, Heavenly Parents, and these beautiful young people, Heavenly Parents, to And we pray that we can always be united and we can always be reminded of this great responsibility that we are all confronted and challenged to truly fulfill during our lifetime. Thank you so much once again for protecting all our leaders and for our elders, heavenly parents, and brothers and second generation, and most of all, for allowing us enjoy your heavenly fortune, even if we are not that adequate enough to receive them. And because of this, heavenly parents, on unison also, we would like to offer everything back to you. In the name of our true parents, in the name of our brothers and sisters, and brothers and second generation, and in my name, Silvia Paredes, I would like to report, Jew.
Ju. All right. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Good night. Given to one another. Second day natin ngayon, third day next meeting. Malapit na tayo matapos. Woo! Patras. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone. Have a good rest then.
Lamig ngayon, kaya makatulog ng maaga.
Yeah. Ulang nga kuya eh. Ulang-ulan.
Saan din dito eh.
Thank you so much po. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Junamay. Junamay, may utang ka pa. So you have to sing next meeting, okay?
Oo nga.
Saka si Christinette.
Christinette, may utang yan. Hindi siya exempted.
May question po sana ako pero next time na lang po.
Ako din po.
Okay, next meeting. Okay, huwag nyo kaming
Oh,
pahirapan.
exciting. Galing.
Mujimot.
Sige.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Ate Josephine. Thank you po. Good night po.
Ang galing naman ni Jinggoy, ang apelido na Forbes. Yaman. No? Yaman ni Jinggoy. Ano, Jinggoy? Forbes. Forbes. Good night, Kuya Arwen.
Bye.